What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I'm here with week 9, I think, of the Pokemon Premier League Division 1 this week against Vandal X, or Baby Eric, and his Seattle Onix. We're both 4-4 teams, so this game is pretty pivotal in terms of who really needs to be concerned about potential relegation at the end of the season, so definitely a game that I want to win. That said, we did suffer a very rough loss last week. It was kind of rough both in terms of differential and really rough in terms of how I actually played it. Not happy at all with that game, as you saw from Jolt's Salt Explosion, as that was what I titled the video last week. If you haven't seen that already, I think you will probably enjoy that. But we're going to try to bounce back from that and get back on the winning path here, as if we can win this game, we should be pretty safe. I think 5 wins is very safe in relegation, and that means that despite the fact that my chances of a title are minimal to even non-existent at this point, honestly, with 4 losses, that would mean that we can more easily use some of my low-tier threats here in the later weeks, so we'll see how that goes. But I definitely want to be able to win this game first to free me up and take off the pressure a little bit. So definitely an important game for both of us here for those reasons. But you can see the standings here. We're in 8th place right now. Not good, and it sucks because if I played decently well last week, we could easily be in the top 3 right now with how the results panned out, but it is what it is, you know. But let's go ahead and hop on into the team analysis a bit, as my opponent has Weavile, Landorus T, Mega Alakazam, Raikou, Salamence, Cobalion, Tentacruel, Ditto, and Charizard, with the Weavile and Landorus T being Z eligible and the Raikou being able to use support Z moves as well. Not too many options there for support Raikou, but I think Electric Terrain is really the only notable one, I think. There might be some other ones, maybe he'll surprise me, but I'm really not expecting too much on that front. But a very offensive team. Excuse me, very offensive team. I need water, hang on. Don't know what that was. Anyways, very offensive team on his end for sure. Pretty much everything's best set on his team is offensive. The only true, really nothing is true defensive at all. Like nothing is a defensive Pokemon, really. I mean, Tentacruel kind of. Lando T is sometimes defensive, more often than not. It's a Z Crystal holder. And against me, I really do expect it to be offensive, honestly. He kind of needs it to switch into Diggersby, and maybe that'll be my saving grace on that front, but I really think that he's going to bring something along the lines of Double Dance with a Ground DMZ boosting his Earthquake, as after a +2 from Swords Dance, Ground DMZ is actually able to OHKO max defense Mega Slowbro, so I think that's really a likely set for him to bring in this particular matchup. It's also just very threatening overall, so I have to play around Lando T with that set in mind, as that is the set that can most immediately sweep me. I also think that Choice Scarf Lando T is very threatening against my team, maybe a little less so, because I would theoretically have things like a defensive Mega Slowbro, defensive Clefable, that would be able to deal with that relatively well, but the Swords Dance set, especially if combined with Rock Polish, is easily the most threatening set to my entire team, and that's from his entire draft, so that thing is a massive threat that I have to keep in mind when I'm building. The other pretty big threat, I think, is the Raikou, as I really don't have any great Raikou counters on my team. I have good checks to it, I feel, but Raikou's able to switch in against a variety of threats and really punish me, really threaten me a lot if I don't prep for it really well. So Raikou, I think, could be a big issue for me depending on what he brings, unless I prep pretty heavily for it, and of course I will, but I'll talk more about that whenever I get there. Other notable threats on his team, Weavile could be a threat, but it really has 4 move slot syndrome against my team. It needs like 7 moves to be able to hit me, so maybe a little less of a threat than it would have been otherwise. He actually might not even bring it, but just having that stab knockoff coming off of that kind of speed and attack stat is probably still good enough to justify bringing, even if I happen to have good switch-ins to it on the particular team that I bring. But, you know, we'll see on that. The Z Weavile option is also kind of scary, because that would neuter things like my Registeel. A little bit more useless in terms of being a counter, because that would be able to bypass the Light Metal option, which would otherwise weaken the power of low kicks. So just a thought there, but Weavile, it may come, it might come. It might be like the 6th mon he puts on his team, honestly, but I don't really fear it in terms of being a sweeping threat in this game, unless I play really badly or unless he just preps really well. So we'll see what happens on that. But otherwise, nothing else on his team really strikes me as an enormous threat. Megazam could be, but I have good responses to that. Cobalion could be, but I do have good responses to that. Salamence could be, but I think I have a lot of ways to check that. That could definitely be an issue, though, if I let it get out of hand with Dragon Dances, so another thing to keep in mind there. Charizard, I don't know what the heck he's going to do with that. If he brings it, it just looks pretty useless, honestly, against me. But if he brings it, then I guess my mind will be blown a little bit. So in terms of my good threats against his team, I think the two biggest threats to him that I have are the Thundurus and the Mega Slowbro. As the Thundurus offensively is able to outspeed a fair amount of his team, but the combination of Thunderbolt plus Hidden Power Ice hits everything very, very hard except the Raikou, and I can just run something like Toxic coming off of Prankster to help me wear down the Raikou with the Thundurus. So Thundurus is a huge threat against him offensively. I also think that Mega Slowbro under a Trick Room is a huge threat to his team, as all I really need is Dual Stab and Ice Beam to be able to hit his entire team super hard outside of the Ditto, and if he brings Ditto against that set, neither of us will have super effective coverage for each other, and I will have more HP, so theoretically I should win that 1v1, so I think I can deal with the Ditto as well. So yeah, Trick Room Mega Bro, offensively invested, is a super big threat against this team too. And defensively, I have a few things that are pretty solid. Like the Fable is good against him defensively, Registeel is good against him defensively, and even Diggersby is good both defensively and offensively, and being an electric immunity to help against the Raikou, as well as just being a big setup threat if I'm able to get it in against the Raikou. So I think the Diggersby could help punch a big hole in his team, potentially even sweep, depending on how the battle plays out. But yeah, that's all I really have to say at this point. I think it's a pretty even matchup overall. I think it's pretty even. His team kind of lacks switch-ins to a lot of my stuff, but he also outspeeds a lot of my team with his team, so speed control is pretty important in this game too, and you'll see that as a theme whenever I go through my team here coming up. So let's go ahead and hop on over to that. First things first, I already talked about this set. We got a Mega Slowbro here with Trick Room, the lowest speed I can possibly have, Quiet Nature, with Ice Beam, Surf, and Psyshock, max special attack, plus a boosting nature and quiet nature. So this thing hits so hard. I only need a little bit of chip damage on a few things on his team for this to just get a kill every single turn under Trick Room, honestly. I need about, I don't know, like 40% of damage on Cobalion. I need rocks damage on Weavile. I need a couple rounds of rocks on the Mega Alakazam. And otherwise, this just body bags things. I guess obviously some damage on Raikou. I need about 50% of damage on Raikou. But yeah, this is just really good against him. Just plain and simple. It's really good. It could be the win con. It could just be the breaker to help things like my Thundurus or Diggersby sweep, or even my Drapion in the back that I'll show in a bit. But it's just super good against him. Not much else to really say here. It is able to still live a wide variety of hits, having nearly max HP here. Despite the only 12 EVs in defense, I'm still able to take things like hits from Landorus T. Not necessarily +2 hits, but I'll make sure to play around that to prevent that from being a problem. But yeah, just super solid against him. I can set up on things like the Tentacruel, potentially the Ditto, potentially the Charizard. There's a lot of things I can set up on. Honestly, even the Weavile, I chew from Weavile. So yeah, this is just really good overall. So next up is the Thundurus. This is an Expert Belt variant just to make sure that I'm still able to OHKO a more offensive Lando T. Even if he's like an HP invested Lando T, it should be able to OHKO with a Hidden Power Ice. So that did help to have that little bit of boost from the Expert Belt. And Thunderbolt also will be powered up hitting the Tentacruel, which could be nice considering Tentacruel is pretty fat on its special defensive side. Toxic and T-Wave for the dual status option, just to help out versus things like the Mega Alakazam and the Raikou. I know that I can't use these against Weavile. I'm going to keep pounding that into my head as we go into the battle. Don't click these freaking moves against Weavile. I'll look dumb. But otherwise, they are really good against this team just to maintain speed control and to help me chip down the Raikou, which I feel is pretty essential here moving forward in this matchup. So really solid against him. Also could be a win con, and this will certainly be my lead, as his most likely lead against my team is going to be the Cobalion, as that I feel is the most likely rocker against me. He's either going to lead with Cobalion or Lando T, probably for his rocker. I think rocks are going to be his turn 1 play, or what he would like to be his turn 1 play, since I'm not bringing Decidueye on this team. So this will make for a very good anti-lead in that sense, and I might be able to get an early Toxic off on the Raikou. So next up is the Diggersby. This is an agility set with a Yachi Berry and a lot of HP investment. This will allow me to outpace a, I believe the creeping is for a max speed Mega Alakazam after an agility. I think that's it. I might be slightly off on that, just doing this off the top of my head. I built this team like 3 or 4 days ago, but I'm pretty sure that's right. I'll make sure to look over my EV spreads before I get into the battle here. But yeah, just really solid against him. The combination of Dual Stab and Ice Punch hits everything. Like literally everything, super hard. And if I'm able to get off the turn 1 T-Bolt versus the Cobalion lead, then the Cobalion, even if Shook Berry, should be in range of an Earthquake, so that could be pretty essential here. And I am running Frustration instead of Return this week, just in case he does bring the Ditto. I think he's more likely to run Max Happiness on the Ditto, not really considering the fact that I could just swap the investment here. But it's not really a big deal, I don't think, as the Ditto would be able to hit my team with the combination of Ice Punch and Earthquake anyways, so it's not a huge deal, honestly. But I did it for kicks, and that's that. So I should be able to switch in pretty easily on the Raikou. This is an excellent check to the Raikou. I really think HP Ice is going to be his coverage of choice, supporting that. He could go HP Water or something like that, but I just think that's really unlikely, personally, as HP Ice would allow him to hit both my Thunders and my Digger's Bees. So that's that. Pretty solid against him overall. Still losing my voice. I had a lot of talking this weekend, so it's kind of, I'm fighting it a little bit at the moment. But next up is the Clefable. This is a pretty standard set overall, but I am Magic Guard with Wish Protect, which is kind of weird. And the reasoning behind that is that I need to be able to beat a variety of threats on his team that actually requires me having an extra round of Leftovers recovery, as well as not taking damage from Stealth Rock or from hazards. So I felt that this was a really clutch set to have. Moonblast to hit pretty much everything, Thunderbolt to also hit the Charizard and the Tentacruel. But this will allow me to always take any 2 hits from his Specs Raikou, assuming Timid. I believe I'm not able to with Modest, but the Modest doesn't make much sense because that wouldn't necessarily outpace my Thundurus. Something to keep an eye on. It also wouldn't outpace Keldeo necessarily, so yeah, I really do think that Timid is a necessity on the Raikou. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case, but yeah, so this is just really solid against him defensively. Takes hits from everything, including the Salamence. Even if it's Iron Tail, I can take any 1 hit and do a ton back with Moonblast. I can take a hit from Cobali. I can just take hits from his entire team, even Earthplate Lando. Not 2 hits from Earthplate Lando, obviously, but this could certainly come in handy on that front, too. So, really solid against him defensively. And then I have the Drapion, Choice Scarf with Earthquake Pursuit, Ice Fang, and Knockoff. This is my trapper for the Mega Alakazam, but I have to play this very cautiously because of the fact that it's pretty much a free setup for Orlando T as soon as I trap the Zam. So I do need to play very, very carefully. I might even lock myself into Ice Fang against it instead of locking myself into something like Knockoff or Pursuit, just for the reasons of safety, as that will prevent both the Mints and the Lando T from setting up in my face, so I think that could be pretty clutch there. Not really a whole lot else to say on that. And then finally we have the Registeel fully Fizz Def. It's my rocker. It also helps with speed control. Once again, as you can see, I have Trick Room on Mega Burrow, I have Thunder Wave on Thundee I have Agility on Digger's Beat, I have Wish Protect on Clef, which it doesn't really help with speed control, but it does help with just generally dealing with sped up threats. I have a Choice Scarf on Drapion, I have Thunder Wave on this thing, so I really am keeping a close eye on speed control in this game because I think that is key given how frail his team is and given how much faster his team is in general compared to mine. So pretty solid overall. I am Clear Body instead of Light Metal this week, despite the fact that Light Metal would help a little bit versus Weavile. I think it's more important for me to not be just pure setup fodder for something like Salamence or Lando T, so I want to be able to have my full physical attack stat as I fire out Ice Punches against those threats and hopefully get them in range of my other Pokemon if push comes to shove. Max Fizz Def helps with the Weavile. I didn't feel like I needed more Spit Def on this just because I have a lot of other ways to deal with his special threats, most notably the Clefable. But also, Registeel is just very fat naturally, so I just didn't really think I needed that to be able to do the job here in this game. So yeah, that about wraps this up. I'm actually about to hop over and play him. I do apologize if this upload is up late. I'm not exactly sure what time I will finish the editing for this, but we actually didn't get to play until late on Monday, just due to our schedules not really cooperating well with each other. But that said, we are actually playing on Showdown as well for the sake of speed and ease, so it'll be a little bit of a different environment, a little bit more what I'm used to. I think it's easier for me to keep track of stuff on Showdown compared to Wi-Fi, so hopefully that'll help me out a little bit here. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and hop on over to that, and I will be back with the replay after that is done, so see you then. Alright, and here we are with the match versus Baby Eric and his Seattle Onix. And as you can see, he did decide to bring the Raikou, Landorus, T, Salamence, Alakazam, Mega Alakazam that is, and the Tentacruel and the Weavile, meaning that there is no Cobalion on my screen, which I think is a little bit odd. I did think Cobalion was by far his best Stealth Rocker, as the Lando T certainly wants to be set up, and I really don't think he would want to run Stealth Rocks on that whenever with Double Dance it can just sweep my team. So I really did expect to see the Cobalion, but because he doesn't have the Cobalion, it leads me to believe he might actually be a defensive Lando. But even so, I still have to play around it the same way in that I have to respect Double Dance first and foremost, because that is the set that can straight sweep my team. So got to keep that in mind. But overall, aside from not bringing Cobalion, the team is pretty much what I expected. Really didn't expect Charizard or Ditto, but the lack of Cobalion was what was the most surprising here, certainly. But now begs the question of what the heck the lead matchup's going to be, as I was 100% confident if he brought Cobalion, it was going to be his lead, which made my Thundurus a really great counter lead. But without the Cobalion here, I really have no idea what he wants to lead with, so I figured it was just in my best interest to lead with Thundurus anyways, as what that does is that denies a turn 1 setup from Landorus. Not that I think he would really want to do that, but I really do think it's in my best interest to go ahead and lead with a Thundurus to ensure that he is not able to set up on turn 1 if he wants to go for a lot of differential or something, as I know given his position right now in the standings, he needs a big win here to get himself back in the talks for a potential championship, as we both have the 4-4 record. We're both pushing for a really big win here, and if we get a huge win on either side, honestly, either of us could easily be in that championship discussion again. But yeah, so that's just the general thought here. Team review. My lead is going to be the Thundurus, and let's go ahead and jump on into this and see what he decides to bring here. So, or what he decides to lead off with, which is the Weavile. So this is a little bit of an interesting position immediately. I'm actually forced to go straight into my Registeel here, but that's actually okay, because no matter what, I should be able to live any 2 hits from this and potentially set up my Stealth Rocks, or more likely go for the Thunder Wave. But he actually doubles into his Salamence, which I thought was a very interesting play. I'm not entirely sure the thought process behind that, but what this is essentially just a free Ice Punch. I fear nothing from this because I am Fizz Def, and I really don't expect to see something along the lines of a Spec Salamence in this matchup. So what I'm able to do now is predicting his Roost, as he's obviously a bulky Salamence given the damage that he took from the Ice Punch. I'm going to just fire off a Thunder Wave to make sure that I can outspeed him later on, as I believe Registeel is actually capable of outspeeding Salamence when it is paralyzed, as long as he doesn't have a ton of speed investment. So I'm going to just set up my rocks on the incoming Tentacruel, as he is going to knock off my leftovers. Kind of sucks, but not the worst thing in the world, considering I do have the Wishpasser Clef in the back, and I'm going to fire off an Earthquake just to chip this thing down a little bit, see what its item is, maybe pop a potential Sugar Berry before I decide to try to set up with Diggersby later on. So I'm just going to go into my Clefable here, basically just as a pivot, as I feel like this can lure out either the Sludge Bomb or the Acid Spray, but more likely a knockoff trying to get rid of my leftovers. So this gives me a very free switch into my Mega Slowbro, and this just means I get to nuke something because he doesn't have a switch into this offensive monster. He's going to go into his Raikou, and watch how much this Psyshock does to him. As I Mega Evolve here, going to fire off the Psyshock. It does 66. That's ridiculous. It is 66% to this incoming Raikou, basically meaning it only has 1 more switch into Stealth Rock. Now here I'm going to go hard into my Diggersby because I do have the Yachi Berry. I don't fear anything, and it's going to force him out into his Tentacruel, trying to sack it off, but no, we're clicking that agility button, and now we are an enormous threat to his team, as I can fire off a free Frustration, as now he's going to be forced to basically intimidate me down or try to get lucky with the Banded Weavile and hope I don't have a Yachi Berry. So he's going to go into his Lando first, which just means I click Ice Punch for free, as he's going to go into his Salamence to fire off a second Intimidate, so that's fine, good on him, but he still takes a million from this Ice Punch, and he's going to be obviously in range of a second one, so I'm going to pick that off there, getting 2 early kills for Diggersby, and really helping out its MVP candidacy a little bit here, as now he's going to go into his Landorus. It was really tempting to stay in here and click Ice Punch again, but the best play by far for me was to go into my Thundurus, because what that does is that ensures that he will not be able to Double Dance in my face. The worst he can do is set up a Rock Polish, in which case my Slowbro will still be able to revenge it, meaning I could actually set up a Trick Room in its face and just sweep there if he goes for the Rock Polish. So that was the reasoning behind that play, is now he's going to go into his Weavile. My best play is to sack this thing off, because as soon as I get any damage on this Weavile, Drapion just sweeps, because I am Choice Scarf. So I'm going to fire off a Thunderbolt, actually outspeeding him the second time, meaning it was a speed tie. We both were speed creeping the same base stat, being Keldeo and Cobalion, so thought that was pretty interesting there, as now he's going to reveal a really cool Mega Alakazam set where he traces my Prankster, and then he is actually sub-Calm Mind, so he's able to dodge the incoming Toxic here, as this would have been all I really need to do, was Toxic this thing, and then I win with Drapion as long as he doesn't have the substitute, but he's actually sub-CM Psychic, so now it's a matter of, okay, what's his last coverage move? Is he Signal Beam / Shadow Ball? Is he Focus Blast? I scouted out with Registeel. And just in case, you know, if he happened to miss, I could break his sub that way. But he does have Focus Blast, so this means that Mega Slowbro is able to resist both of his coverage options, and with my offensive investment, I can always break his sub with his Psyshock. So Mega Bro, while didn't get any kills in this game, did fulfill a very key role, so I'm finally glad to see Mega Bro actually do what it's supposed to do in a battle instead of just sitting on the sidelines or doing nothing at all. So yeah, what that does is that does allow my Drapion to come in, click Knockoff twice, because I am Choice Scarfed, outpace both the Mega Alakazam and the Raikou for the clean 3-0 win for the Toronto Staraptors. So, whew, okay, that was a very good rebound, I think, from last week. Last week we played really, really badly, but this week returning back to Showdown kind of made me feel more at home, as I am a lot more comfortable on Showdown than I am on Wi-Fi. I think that's pretty obvious. But, yeah, I thought the prep was spot on in this game. The Diggersby did exactly what it was supposed to do, and honestly, if he didn't have the Intimidate on the Mints as well, that thing could have just gotten 6 kills, honestly. But yeah, the Diggersby did really well. The Thundurus kind of did what it was supposed to, but he did have some really nice counter prep to Thundurus in his sub Mega Alakazam, so that was pretty cool for sure. Nice prep on his end there. The Scarf Drapion really came in clutch, as well as a very solid check to the Mega Zam as well as to Raikou. So overall, really happy with the prep and how I played this game. I know I've talked to Eric a little bit after the match, and he thinks there's a lot of ways he could have changed how he played the game, and I do agree with that, but still on our end, very, very happy with the result this week, as now we are 5-4, back into the positive differential, so we're now +1, I think. Obviously not a great differential, but hey, at least we're not negative anymore, and we're back on the winning track with that 5-4 record. Now next week we have a game against Monotui and his Tampa Bay Luxrays. That will be an interesting game as well. I believe he's also 5-4 after this week, so that will be a good one. This is one of the games again that I've been really looking forward to since joining the PPL. I've always wanted to fight Mono. I know he's really good, especially this gen, so I think it should be a good one. And I think the matchup is pretty even overall between us at a glance. I haven't looked too much in depth at it yet, but I think it could definitely be a really close game, close matchup. And we'll just see how it goes. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you did enjoy, and I will see you all next week against Mono. Peace.